My name is Rob Welty. I had served in the United States Navy as an aviation ordnanceman, had gotten out of active duty Navy and went into the Navy Reserve. Had gotten out of the Navy Reserve. I was an aviation ordnanceman first class. Had a break in my military service while I went to college, and after some time I went back into the military in the Maryland Army National Guard and was commissioned as a chaplain, and I'm currently serving at the rank of captain. Originally I had served in the Navy on active duty from 1987 to 1992, and it was during that time that the United States had entered into the First Persian Gulf War and Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I guess the greatest influence in my life would have been my father. He was a World War II veteran. He was in the Navy and actually had served as one of the very first Navy frogmen during World War II. He had a sense of pride and patriotism to him. He had loved his time in serving in the military, and it was just something that he passed down to me as his son. And that was really one of the big reasons why I joined the military and when I first went into the Navy. When I left the Navy in 1992 on active duty, it was a very difficult decision to make. One of the downfalls, I guess you could say, of being in the military is that there can be a lot of family separation. And of course, with my job being in the Navy, I was attached to a fighter squadron, an F-14 squadron. So whenever the ship wasn't being deployed, the squadron was going somewhere. And so during the first 3 years of my marriage, I was gone for approximately 2 years or a little bit more of that time. And that made it difficult on family life. And so my wife and I talked about it and had made the decision that I was going to get out of active duty and go into the reserves. I guess a specific memory that stands out in my mind would be when Desert Shield had begun. My wife and I were sitting in our apartment watching television. We were watching the news, and she was very worried that I was going to get deployed. I had just gotten back from a 3-month deployment, and I told her, I said, you know, there's nothing to worry about. I'm not going to get deployed. The ship needs to go into the yards, and so I really wasn't stressed about it. It was probably about an hour later that my phone rang, and I was told that we were on 72 hours notice, that we were going to be going out to sea again in 72 hours. But the thing that really stands out in my mind was being told that we were going out for 10 days and packed for 6 months. We went out for the 10 days. We went up and down the coast of the U.S. That 10 days came and went. The 6 months came and went. I actually wound up being deployed for Desert Shield and Desert Storm for 7.5 months before coming back home. One of the other things that I remember is when we had gotten overseas during Desert Shield. We had been there for several months, approximately 5.5 months, and nothing had gone on. I had worked the night shift on the flight deck, which meant I worked from 6 o'clock in the evening until 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was in my rack, and I was asleep one afternoon about 3 o'clock, and I heard the captain come on the ship's intercom. And he was saying about how we had been training for several months, and that it was time to put that training into action, and that we were now at war with Iraq. It wasn't sinking in when I heard this. I was kind of in and out of sleep. I rolled out of my rack, and everyone else in the berthing area, they came out of the racks as well. And we all got dressed and went to our shops. When I got down to my shop, there wasn't anybody there. And I went immediately up to the flight deck to see where all the guys in my shop were at. When I got up there, I was just shocked when I saw just pallet after pallet of bombs and missiles that were ready to be loaded on the aircraft. And as an ordnanceman, that's what my job was, to load the bombs and missiles, load all the armament on the aircraft. That night, when we did our first strike, it was a very high tempo atmosphere on the flight deck. It was anytime, but tonight it was even more so. And in that first strike, we had actually launched somewhere around 80 jets in 20 minutes off of the aircraft carrier. When I think about what my military service means to me, I would say that it means a sense of pride. It means a sense of accomplishment. I enjoy serving my country. I believe is something that gives to me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of purpose, something that's greater than myself. I've just enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time in the Navy, I enjoyed my time in the Navy Reserves, and I've enjoyed my time thus far in the Army National Guard. If there was one thing that I could say to the general public about the military is, I guess it can all be boiled down to a phrase that I saw one time when I was in the Navy, which said, "Freedom has a flavor that the protected will never know." There's a great sacrifice that our military, both past and present, have made and are continuing to make in order for our country to have the freedoms that it does. And that's something that many people just do not understand. I remember coming back from Desert Storm, and it was good to be back home. It was good to see my wife. And as we were driving home, she asked me, "Are you glad to be home?" And I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "But if they told me I had to go back tomorrow, I'd do it immediately. I'd happily go." And that's something there that, I really think that the public doesn't quite understand. That our military doesn't do what they do because they're forced to do it. They do it because they want to do it. We have an all-volunteer military today, and each one of them have signed up knowing the possibilities, knowing that there could be deployments to dangerous parts of the world, but yet we do it in order that our families, our friends, the citizens of the United States can have the freedoms to be able to, to get a job, to be able to get an education, to be able to sleep soundly at night. And so I would say if there's one thing that I would want the general public to know is just about that sacrifice that our military makes and has made over the years.